I am the daughter of the village chief. In my previous life, I spent 3 bitter years chasing after a young intellectual named Sam who had been sent to the countryside. Eventually, I married him as I had wished. After our marriage, I poured everything into him, giving him the best food and drinks, and spent my money and energy helping him return to the city. However, after he returned to the city, he climbed up the social ladder by marrying the factory director's wealthy daughter, abandoning me with divorce papers sent in the mail. Furious, I went to confront him, but he knocked me unconscious and pushed me into the river. My older brothers sought revenge for me, but Sam framed them, sending them to prison. My parents, devastated by losing their children, ended their lives by drinking poison. In the end, my family was ruined, and I lost everything. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back before our marriage. This time, I will kick Sam out of my life, focus on preparing for the college entrance exam, and never waste another ounce of effort on him again. Chapter 1. On the 29th day of the 12th lunar month, just before the new year, the village courtyard was in an uproar. A male-educated youth complained, "Why is it like this? During the farm's pork distribution, the educated youth only get big bones and offal, while the villagers get pork legs and lean meat? This is unfair. We want pork leg meat too." The elderly village chief sighed helplessly. "Comrade, our village has over 200 people, and each villager only gets 350 grams of meat. You educated youths, however, each get 500 grams. Besides, the meat distribution is decided by drawing lots, with all numbers being random. It has always been fair." "Exactly. Everyone draws lots. Even villagers sometimes get offal. If you had bad luck, how is that our fault?" a villager retorted. A female educated youth snapped sharply. "Humph. You villagers have plenty of people. Missing out on one meal of meat won't hurt you. But we're educated youths, here to support rural development. Especially Sam, he's a top student. Not here to be bullied by you uncivilized people." At the mention of Sam, the villagers fell silent. Everyone looked at me with disapproval. Someone sighed. "Ah, the village chief's daughter, Diana, is probably going to throw herself at him again." Looking at this familiar scene and hearing these familiar voices, I felt a chill run down my spine. I never expected this. I had been reborn. Reborn into the winter of 1976. In my previous life, 5 or 6 educated youths were sent to our village as part of the national program. Sam was the fairest-skinned and most delicate-looking among them, and I fell in love with him at first sight. Caught up in youthful infatuation, it was as if I was possessed. I became obsessed with him, completely love-struck. I liked Sam. I cared for him in every way and treated him with utmost kindness. The conditions for the educated youths were poor, so I would rise early and stay up late, digging up wild vegetables and stewing them with cured meat just for him. My father, being the village chief, had authority over many things. I begged him to give Sam the best single room in the dormitory. Whenever there was heavy labor on the farm, I arranged for Sam to teach at the village school instead. In winter, afraid he'd be cold, I begged my mother and sister-in-law to make him the thickest quilts and bedding. My eldest brother worked as a chef in the county, and my second brother was a security guard there. They would hand over their monthly salaries to the family. My brothers adored me, but I shamelessly persuaded them to let me spend half their wages on Sam. When I went to the county town with Sam, I treated him to meals at the state-run restaurant and bought things for him at the supply and marketing cooperative. Although Sam came from a poor family, he was always the most well-dressed among the educated youths. Thanks to me, later, perhaps out of loneliness or because he got used to my generosity, Sam finally accepted my love, and we got married. After our marriage, Sam thrived in the village. My father even recommended him for a position as an accountant at the commune, sparing him from hard labor. But the good times didn't last. In 1977, Sam received a letter from his family in the city. The letter said that if they could gather another 300 yuan, his family could arrange a job for him to return to the city. At first, my parents were against it. They feared that once Sam returned to the city, he would abandon me. But Sam pleaded with me relentlessly, claiming his parents were ill and that he had to go back to fulfill his filial duties. He promised that as soon as he established himself in the city, he would come back to take me with him. Honestly, I didn't care much about whether I could go to the city or not, but I relented, fearing his parents' health might worsen. So, I scraped together money from everywhere I could. I took my brother's entire savings, all 300 yuan, and handed it to Sam. After Sam left, I counted the days, waiting for him, but months later, what I received was a cold, heartless letter from him. In the letter, he cruelly declared that we were divorced. He wrote that he never liked me and that even marrying me had been something I forced him into. In the countryside, marriages didn't involve official registration. Without a marriage certificate, a wedding banquet was enough to consider the union valid. Now, he unilaterally announced the divorce. Without a marriage certificate, I had no legal ground to argue. It was a bolt from the blue. I became the laughingstock of the entire village. I fell gravely ill. Using the address from his letter, I tearfully went to the city to find Sam. Desperate for answers, he agreed to meet me by the lake in a park. When we met, he shamelessly told me he had latched onto the factory director's daughter and that I was no longer worthy of him. I couldn't accept it. I raised my fists to hit him, but he took the opportunity to knock me unconscious, then carried me and threw me into the lake. I couldn't swim. Helplessly, I sank to the bottom of the lake, never to rise again. Sam, however, was deemed to have acted in self-defense. When my older brothers found out, they were furious and went to the factory to confront Sam. But Sam fabricated evidence, accusing them of being gangsters and criminals. At the time, there was a nationwide crackdown on crime, and my two brothers were sentenced to death. My parents, devastated by my drowning and my brother's executions, found no way to seek justice. In despair, they drank poison and ended their own lives. My once whole family was utterly destroyed. Thinking of it now, I can't help but grind my teeth in hatred. Fortunately, I've been reborn. This time, I will never repeat the same mistakes. Chapter 2. At this moment, Sam looked at me indifferently, his eyes full of disdain and arrogance. Today, during the pork distribution, he had bad luck and ended up with a pound of pig liver, the thing he hated the most. He was dissatisfied but too proud to lower himself and negotiate with the villagers for an exchange. The other educated youths, taking offense on his behalf, stirred up today's commotion. Sam stared at me for too long. His lackey, a bespectacled educated youth nicknamed Four Eyes, pointed directly at me. Diana, you decide. How should the pork be distributed? The educated youths were confident. They thought I was Sam's simp and would surely side with them, crying, throwing a tantrum, or even threatening my father to redistribute the pork in their favor. The villagers frowned as well. Everyone knew my father doted on me and would likely follow my opinion, just as he had always been partial to the educated youths in the past. Sure enough, my father sighed helplessly and asked, "Daughter, what do you think we should do?" All eyes turned to me. However, my response surprised everyone. "Father, I think the educated youths are being unreasonable. Just because they are fewer in number doesn't mean they should get special treatment. Drawing lots for meat is already fair enough. There's no need to change it." My words left everyone in shock. Even my father was taken aback, wondering if he had misheard me. He asked quietly, "Daughter, did you make a mistake? Haven't you always been on that boy's side these past few years?" The more my father said this, the more pain I felt in my heart. My previous life had been too tragic. Now, being able to live again and see these hardworking villagers brought me a sense of happiness I hadn't appreciated before. I firmly reiterated, "Father, you didn't mishear me. The pigs were raised by the villagers. The educated youths think it's beneath them to even step into the pigsty. So why should they get the best meat?" The villagers were delighted to hear this. They echoed my sentiment. Exactly. The lots are drawn randomly. Some of us villagers also end up with offal. The educated youths have already been treated generously. At this moment, a female educated youth named Lily jumped out angrily. She snapped, "Diana, are you out of your mind? Sam is the one asking for the exchange. He hasn't had meat in months. How could you be so heartless?" Seeing Lily only deepened my disgust. In my previous life, Lily had secretly loved Sam too. But her family was poor, and her social status was bad. She felt inferior and didn't dare to confess to Sam as boldly as I did. Because of this, Lily often mocked me, calling me shameless. I frequently brought Sam gifts of eggs and wild vegetable soup, which he treated with disdain. He never asked for them, but he never refused either, acting as though he were a fallen phoenix reluctantly accepting my charity. Lily and Four Eyes often ridiculed me, saying I was a desperate toad lusting after a swan. Yet in the end, those eggs and soup ended up in Lily and Four Eyes' stomachs. Looking back, all my efforts had been thankless, and I had become a joke to everyone. Now that I think about it, I was truly foolish. I rolled my eyes at Lily and snapped. If you're not deaf, listen closely. From now on, everything in the village will be distributed according to labor. Those who work more will get more. Then I turned to Sam and said, Sam, you got pig liver. Maybe it's fate. Whatever is weak should be replenished. Don't you think? You're saying I have a bad heart. Sam's face turned bright red with anger. In the past, with my fiery temper, I always had his back in the village. No one dared to bully him, or even speak to him harshly. But now, being scolded so bluntly by a village girl in front of everyone, he naturally couldn't take it. Badlands breed bad people. You're all just. Sam was furious but didn't dare to truly argue with the villagers. He could only storm off with the pig liver, fuming with anger. With the matter resolved, the villagers each took their share of pork and happily went home to prepare for the new year. Lily and Four Eyes, however, blocked my path on the way back. Without hesitation, Four Eyes casually stretched out his hand in front of me. Palm up, Diana. Sam and I are going to the county town in a few days. Lend us 10 yuan. In the past, these educated youths always borrowed money from me under Sam's name, never once paying me back. But today, I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. Are you crazy? Why on earth would I lend you money? Do I look like a fool to you? Lily, growing anxious, chimed in. Why? If it weren't for you, Sam wouldn't have been left without meat. She threatened me. If you don't lend us the money, we educated youths will strike. We won't teach at the village school anymore. Chapter 3. If Lily hadn't mentioned the village school, I might not have felt so foolish. But now that she brought it up, I wanted to slap myself for my past stupidity. In reality, our village didn't have enough school-aged children. Only about 20 kids aged 6 to 12, which wasn't enough to qualify for a school. In the past, children had to cross 2 mountains to attend the commune school. But when Sam came to the village as part of the Sent Down Youth program, I persuaded my father to reopen the village school. I arranged for the educated youths to take shifts, spending half a day teaching the children. This setup meant each educated youth had 1 or 2 easy days at the school each week, sparing them from hard labor on the farm. As for their teaching work points, which the commune didn't approve, I used my own work points to cover them. Those educated youths, especially Sam, got used to idling at the school and became even lazier when it came to farm work, constantly complaining about exhaustion. My parents called me a fool, but they couldn't change my mind. As a result, I barely earned any work points all year and had to rely on my brothers to support me. Looking back now, I realized just how utterly foolish I was. At this moment, Lily's attempt to threaten me with the school played right into my hands. I announced loudly, "Fine, since you don't want to teach, here's my official announcement. The village school is closed. From now on, the children will attend the commune school. As for you educated youths, there will be no more teaching work points. You'll have to work on the farm like everyone else." Lily was stunned, and Four Eyes looked equally dumbfounded. Lily exploded with anger. "Diana, are you crazy? You're not even the village chief. What right do you have to take away our teaching jobs?" Educated youths were not good at farm work, and they earned far fewer work points than the villagers. Without the teaching job, they wouldn't earn any extra income, making their already difficult lives even harder. My father, who had just finished his chores, joined us. When he heard my declaration and realized I wasn't using my work points to cover for the educated youths anymore, he was overjoyed. He said earnestly, "Comrades, the regulations are clear. Our brigade doesn't have enough children to meet the requirements for a school. If you don't believe me, feel free to contact the commune to confirm." Of course, if you truly love teaching children, you can still volunteer at the village school. But since the commune won't issue work points, there's nothing I can do about that. With my father's support, Lily and Four Eyes were left speechless and had no choice but to give up. Lily huffed. Fine. Farm work it is. I'll earn my work points like everyone else. Your village is full of illiterates anyway. I don't care to teach. She grabbed Four Eyes and stormed off angrily. But one male-educated youth stayed behind, standing in the corner and watching my father and me. He seemed hesitant to speak. After a long pause, he finally said, "Village Chief, Comrade Diana, please reconsider. The village school shouldn't be closed." It was only then that I remembered this educated youth's name, Eric. In our village, Eric was the most low-key, hard-working, and silent of all the educated youths. He was poor, and even the clothes and shoes he wore were hand-me-downs donated by kind villagers. Years of farm labor had tanned his skin to a healthy wheat color. Unlike Sam, who always wore a pale face, white shirts, black leather shoes, and slicked back hair, Eric looked genuinely down to earth. In my previous life, as the 1980s approached, many educated youths returned to the city, but Eric lost contact with his family and had no one to support him. One dark night, he jumped into the river to save a drowning child and tragically lost his life. What broke my heart even more was that it wasn't until 10 years later that Eric's parents came to our village and learned of his fate. White-haired parents mourning their black-haired child, the pain was unimaginable. Thinking back, I realized that while I was chasing after Sam in my previous life, many educated youths mocked and ridiculed me, but Eric never laughed at me. Once, after Sam rejected me, I ran to the mountains to cry alone. That night, Eric was the one on patrol. He didn't say anything. He simply built a small bonfire for me, escorted me down the mountain, and ensured no wild animals would come near. He was a good person, an innocent one. Thinking about this, I asked curiously, "Eric, why don't you want the school to be closed?" Eric paused for a moment before replying earnestly, "The children are too young. Climbing over 2 mountains every day to get to the commune school is too dangerous. Besides, knowledge is priceless. If they study here in the village, they'll save time and learn a lot more." I raised an eyebrow. "Since you're so noble, are you willing to volunteer and teach the children for free every morning?" Eric barely hesitated before responding, "I'm willing." My father, thinking I was being unreasonable, quickly interjected, "Nonsense. If you teach in the mornings, you'll only have the afternoons left to work. How will you earn work points?" Work points for educated youths were tied to wages, grain coupons, and fabric coupons. Without earning enough points, Eric would struggle to get by. But Eric shook his head. "I'll work harder in the afternoons. If I'm efficient, I can still support myself." "Fine. Then it's settled. You can teach the children for free every morning at the village school," I said. I wanted to see how long Eric could last without earning work points. Chapter 4. The next day was New Year's Eve. After lunch, in preparation for the celebration, no one went to the farm. Instead, everyone stayed at the commune canteen for a big cleanup. The villagers, brimming with joy, worked enthusiastically. The educated youths, however, were miserable. They were used to lazing around, but now they had to climb up and down, clean windows, wipe tables, wash shelves, and scrub floors. Before half the day was over, they were already dizzy from exhaustion. Just as the work was wrapping up, someone suddenly shouted, "Oh no, Lily has fainted." I quickly put down my cloth and ran over to check. In the crowd, Lily lay pale and half-conscious on the ground, cradled in Sam's arms. I called out, "This is clearly low blood sugar. Quick, get her a bowl of sugar water." The canteen had no shortage of sugar or water. After downing a bowl, Lily's complexion improved, and she regained her strength. Although Lily was fine, Sam wasn't about to let it go. "Diana, this is all your fault. You knew Lily wasn't in good health, so why did you stop us from teaching and force us to do the cleanup?" In the past, whenever Sam got angry, I would feel heartbroken and guilty, endlessly apologizing to him. But now, his words left me utterly confused. I retorted impatiently, "Sam, the The purpose of sending you educated youths to the countryside is to train you and contribute to socialism. You're lazy and avoid work. Yet you complain about being tired when you have to do something. How dare you blame others? The villagers chimed in. Exactly. Do you think we villagers are born to do hard labor while you educated youths are somehow superior and can't even sweep a floor? Seeing that public opinion was turning against them, Four Eyes quickly stepped in to mediate. Villagers, please don't be upset. Sam didn't mean that. He's just worried about Lily. Then Four Eyes added, Diana, people need to ease into hard work now that Lily has fainted. Surely you can't just ignore her? I nodded. Of course not. Our village is compassionate. Lily can rest for half a day, and we won't dock her work points. Sam, you can use the village's bicycle to take her to the county hospital. Four Eyes brightened up and winked at Sam. See? I told you Diana still likes you and takes care of you. Hearing this, Sam's expression softened slightly, but the next second, I said firmly, however, we don't support freeloaders in this village. Lily's medical expenses will be deducted from your work points. Sam, you're nothing but a tyrant. Sam fumed, clearly unwilling. This hypocrite wanted a good reputation but was never willing to put in effort or money when it mattered. Realizing this, Lily quickly stood up, looking a bit bitter. She said, there's no need to bother him. I'm fine now, and I don't need to go to the hospital. With that, the matter was resolved, and the cleanup came to an end. My father came in from outside with some good news. Villagers and educated youths, tonight is New Year's Eve. Starting this afternoon, we'll have a holiday. The canteen will be closed for 2 days, and the educated youths are invited to join the villagers for New Year's Eve dinner. This was an old tradition in our village. Every New Year's Eve, the village cadres would invite one educated youth to their home to celebrate. Someone teased, do we even need to guess? The village chief's family will definitely invite Sam again. Four Eyes chimed in. Of course! Sam is in for a treat. Diana just can't stop spoiling him. In the past, that was exactly what would happen. I would shamelessly insist on bringing Sam home to assert my claim on him. Last year, when Sam came to our house for New Year's Eve, we brought out all the fish and meat we had saved for the entire year just to treat him. The candy and powdered milk my brothers brought from the city, I couldn't bear to touch them myself but gave them all to Sam. After celebrating at our house, Sam would leave the next day with bags full of gifts, acting as if we had forced those burdens on him. Eventually, those goodies would be shared among the educated youths while Sam maintained his image of nobility. This time was no different. As the educated youths teased him, Sam put on a sour face as if being chosen was a humiliation. Ignoring him, I smiled brightly and said, it's only right to take care of the educated youths. My father is the village chief, and of course, we'll support the policy. Then, I raised my hand and pointed to an inconspicuous corner. This year, our family invites Eric to celebrate New Year's Eve with us. The moment I spoke, everyone was stunned. People looked around, searching for Eric. Many began whispering to each other. Didn't Diana always like Sam? Why would she choose Eric? So what? Eric is better, more reliable. It's normal for Diana to change her mind and like someone else. The murmurs grew louder, and Sam's expression grew darker. Eric, however, remained seated in the corner, silently wiping a table. He had always been quiet, focused solely on his work. Like a mute, when he first arrived in our village 3 years ago, the villagers thought he was antisocial and difficult to approach. Every New Year, while other educated youths were invited to celebrate with villagers, Eric would be left alone, spending the holiday on duty. But today, when he heard me say I was inviting him to my home for New Year's Eve, he widened his eyes in surprise and looked at me with delight. For the first time, I noticed that, while he wasn't a pretty boy like Sam, his eyes were bright and clear, like shining stars, beautiful in their simplicity. Beyond his surprise, there was also a faint shyness in his gaze. I suddenly realized he was far more endearing than Sam. Seeing me choose Eric, some of the other educated youths were displeased. Four Eyes accused me. Diana, how can you be so fickle? Yesterday you liked Sam, and today you like Eric? I found it amusing. They didn't care who I liked. What they cared about was that if Sam didn't come to my house for New Year's, they wouldn't get a chance to enjoy the food and goodies. Other villagers' homes were bare. Only at my house could Sam feast and bring back supplies to share with his classmates. Humph. Who I like is none of your business, I said. I decided to make things clear once and for all. I treat every educated youth equally. So let me be very clear, I don't like Sam at all. I cast a pointed glance at Sam. Some educated youths think they're superior because they've read a few books. They look down on hardworking villagers, act arrogant, and laze around. I can't stand them. Only a fool would like someone like that. As soon as I said this, the villagers burst into laughter, as if they were relieved that my brain had finally started working properly and I was no longer love-struck. Four Eyes and Lily, however, were furious and spoke up in defense of Sam. Diana, how dare you dislike Sam? How could you not like him? Sam's humiliation was evident. He quickly shouted, "That's enough! Shut up! My business is none of your concern." Trying to save face, he forced a casual tone and said, "Diana chased me for so long, and I've always rejected her. It's only natural for her to avoid me now. This year, I'll celebrate at the party secretary's house instead." With that, he left the canteen, his face cold and stiff. What a shameless man, always trying to make himself look good. I had already made myself clear and didn't bother arguing further. I walked over to Eric with a cheerful smile and extended my hand. "Eric, let's go. Let's celebrate New Year's Eve at my house together." Eric's face turned even redder, and he hesitated for a long time without taking my hand. After a moment of shyness, he finally murmured, "Diana, thank you." Chapter 5. Although Eric agreed to come to my house, he was quite stubborn about it. He insisted on going back to the educated youth dormitory to change clothes. It wasn't until evening that he arrived at our house, carrying 2 bags. Our home, being in the countryside, wasn't as luxurious as those in the city, but it was clean, cozy, and full of life, with a bustling, cheerful atmosphere. When Eric arrived, my 2 older brothers were also home for the holiday, busy hanging spring couplets at the entrance. My mother and sister-in-law were in the kitchen, cooking, stewing meat, and frying meatballs. The entire courtyard was filled with mouth-watering aromas. Meanwhile, my eldest brother's 2 children were playing in the yard, squabbling over who got to eat candy first. Eric, being naturally shy, wanted to help but seemed hesitant and awkward. When my brothers saw him, they were clearly surprised. My eldest brother, ever the simple one, remarked, "Sis, you've invited another educated youth? That Sam guy is so arrogant, stop throwing yourself at him." I quickly explained, "Don't talk nonsense. I've never liked Sam. This is Eric, and there's nothing improper between us." Realizing he'd mistaken Eric for someone else, my eldest brother quickly apologized. "Oh, sorry about that. My memory's terrible." My second brother chuckled. "No wonder. Eric here is much more decent looking, taller, and in better shape than that weakling Sam." Once the misunderstanding was cleared, Eric visibly relaxed. He graciously offered, "Big brother, second brother, let me help you hang the couplets." But I stopped him. "Eric, you're our guest. How could I let you do any work?" I pulled him into the courtyard. When my mother and sister-in-law saw him, they quickly brought out fried pork and meatballs, warmly welcoming him. He was treated far better than I ever was. Seeing my father come out, Eric promptly opened his bags. "Village chief, Auntie, these are my New Year gifts for you." Eric had clearly put a lot of thought into it. He was too poor to buy gifts, so he brought wild tea leaves and tobacco leaves he had picked himself during his spare time. He even included some of the pork he had just received the day before. For my niece and nephew, Eric had prepared illustrated storybooks of Journey to the West. My father and brothers, who loved smoking dry tobacco, and my mother and sister-in-law, who enjoyed brewing tea, were delighted with the gifts. My father said happily, "You're too kind. There's no need to bring anything, just coming here is enough." But Eric replied, "Village chief, my parents taught me from a young age never to take advantage of others. It's important to reciprocate. Please accept these gifts, or I won't feel comfortable eating this meal." I hadn't expected Eric to be so principled. Seeing his sincerity, I simply smiled and helped my parents accept the gifts. All right then, let's head inside, wash up, and eat. With everyone pitching in, the table was soon laden with dishes: stewed pork, wild vegetable and egg soup, dumplings, fried lotus rolls, fried chicken, steamed pork, and more, a feast that filled the entire table. Chapter 6. Even with an extra person at the table, the atmosphere was incredibly harmonious. Last year, I had been so focused on serving Sam that my parents couldn't help but feel sorry for me. But this year was different. Many of the best dishes hadn't even made it to my bowl before my parents, treating Eric like a son-in-law, piled the largest pieces of meat into his bowl. Feeling indignant, I reached over to snatch some meat from Eric's bowl. My mother, without hesitation, tapped my hand with her chopsticks. Diana, young ladies should be more reserved at the table. Don't reach so far with your chopsticks. I pouted in protest. Dad, Mom, now that you have Eric, do you not love me anymore? My mother chuckled. Look at Eric, handsome, polite, hardworking, and capable. And you? A silly girl. How could you compare? Everyone praised Eric, making him a bit embarrassed. When my parents weren't looking, he quietly slid the large piece of meat into my bowl. He smiled and said, I can't eat that much by myself. Humph. At least you know your place, I said, shamelessly devouring it. After dinner, Eric insisted on washing the dishes in the kitchen. Once everything was cleaned up, he shared a room with my second brother. The house had a heated Kong bed, making it warm and cozy. Before bed, I made sure to remind my second brother not to bully Eric. Being sharp-witted, my second brother quickly noticed that I treated Eric differently. He teased, "Aw, so the little girl's all grown up and doesn't want to stay home anymore." My response was an immediate, unseen chokehold. The next morning, for once, I didn't sleep in and got up early. Surprisingly, my two brothers and Eric were already awake. I quietly asked my second brother, "You didn't bully Eric last night, did you?" My second brother huffed. "Of course not. We had a great conversation. Eric really is impressive, coming from the capital. He knows so much." It seemed that after just one night, my second brother had become Eric's fan. After washing up, Eric greeted each member of my family with a formal New Year's blessing. My parents were so delighted that they even gave Eric a red envelope, with at least 10 yuan inside. My mother also prepared 2 large bags of New Year goodies for Eric to take back to the educated youth dormitory. I was stunned and protested. "Dad, Mom, when it was me at New Year's, you barely gave me 20 cents in lucky money." My father glared at me on purpose. "Why don't you calculate how much of our money you wasted on Sam over the past 2 years? I sighed. "Fine, let's not talk about past mistakes." In the end, though, Eric refused to take the New Year goodies my mother had prepared. Not only that, but he also handed the huge red envelope back to me right in front of my parents. I was thrilled and proudly said to my parents, "See? What's mine is mine, and what's Eric's is also mine." Clutching the red envelope tightly, I ran off with my niece and nephew to visit relatives and give New Year's blessings. My parents sighed. "This girl is still so immature." When I glanced back, Eric was smiling faintly, his gaze steady and tender. In his eyes, there was a deep affection that stirred my heart. Chapter 7. That evening, I walked Eric back to the educated youth dormitory. On the way, I asked him, "Eric, why didn't you take the New Year's goodies my mom prepared for you?" Eric shook his head. "The village chief and auntie worked hard all year. My dorm still has dried bread. It'll last me until the canteen opens again. And besides," Eric hesitated before continuing, "Diana, those things were probably meant for Sam in previous years, weren't they?" I had been in a great mood, but his words suddenly made me feel a little hurt. "Eric, what do you mean by that? I've told you, I have nothing to do with Sam anymore. Are you misunderstanding me too? Are you mocking me?" Feeling heartbroken, I turned my back to him and wiped away my tears. Eric panicked immediately and apologized. "Diana, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I was a little jealous, so I said it without thinking." "What are you jealous of?" I asked. though I already knew the answer. Eric, however, didn't dare to respond. In this era, silence was golden, and promises were even more so. I decided not to push him further and changed the subject. With a grin, I said, Eric, you came to my house for New Year's, brought gifts for everyone, tea leaves, illustrated storybooks. Where's my gift? I held out my hand, palm up, in mock expectation. Under the cold, aloof moonlight, Eric looked at me seriously, as though he had something to say but couldn't find the words. I pouted. Fine. If you're not giving me anything, I'm not petty enough to care. I was about to walk away when Eric suddenly grabbed my hand. The next moment, I felt something hard yet warm pressed into my palm. It was wrapped in craft paper and carried a faint, orchid-like fragrance. It was a bar of soap. In a rural village where people still used basic soap for washing, this was a rare luxury. I was overjoyed. Eric, where did you get this soap? Blushing, Eric admitted. Last Mid-Autumn Festival, when everyone went to the county town. I saw you looking at it in the supply and marketing cooperative, but you didn't buy it. I happened to have 2 yuan on me, so I bought it. He had kept it all this time. Tears welled up in my eyes. I remembered that Mid-Autumn Festival vividly. That day, I had shamelessly tagged along with the educated youths to the county town. I spent all the money I had saved over the year on Sam, treating him, 4 Eyes, Lily, and the others to a meal and buying mooncakes for Sam at the cooperative. Later, when I wanted to buy a bar of Shanghai soap for myself, I realized I didn't have a single cent left. I never imagined that Eric had noticed everything. That bar of soap was still brand new, carefully wrapped in craft paper. How long had he been hiding the secret? Eric, do you, like... Before I could finish my question, a mocking voice interrupted. Diana, you really don't have any standards. Sam doesn't want you anymore. So now you're throwing yourself at Eric? That sharp, cutting voice could only belong to 4 Eyes and Lily. The group of educated youths had just returned from spending the new year with local families. Judging by their pale faces, it seemed they hadn't eaten well during the holiday. 4 Eyes looked Eric up and down, noticing his empty hands, and burst into even louder laughter. Eric, you stayed at the village chief's house for 2 days, and you're coming back empty-handed? Not even a little oil and water to show for it? Lily added with a sneer. Diana likes Sam. Eric's just a backup, of course. He's treated differently. If there were any good things, they'd be saved for Sam. Hearing this, Sam smirked, wearing his usual air of superiority. But Eric's face grew a little uneasy. I, however, wasn't having any of it. My parents and brothers all like Eric and treat him as family. He can eat at our house anytime he wants. He doesn't need to take anything home. The implication was clear. Sam was always an outsider. Sam's expression darkened, and he frowned. Diana, you're just bitter that I didn't accept you. There's no need to cling to Eric just to spite me. I rolled my eyes impatiently. Sam, narcissism is a disease. You should get it checked. Listen up. Everyone, Eric is under my protection now, and none of you are allowed to bully him. Sam was visibly annoyed. Diana, I've never cared for the things you gave me. Tomorrow, I can go to the county town and buy them myself. I stepped in front of Eric protectively. How convenient. Eric and I are also going to the county town tomorrow for a big shopping spree. Lily scoffed in disgust. Sam says he's going to the county, and suddenly you're going too? And you claim you don't like him? What a schemer! 4 Eyes chimed in. Exactly. When we get to the county, Diana, you'll have to treat us to a meal at the state-owned restaurant. An idea struck me, and I smiled slyly. The state-owned restaurant. Huh? The food there is indeed delicious. Feel free to order whatever you like. What I didn't say was, they could order all they wanted, but who would pay for it? That was another matter entirely. Chapter 8. The next day, we headed to the county town early in the morning on an ox cart. Last night, I had decided on a whim to go, thinking Eric might decline. To my surprise, he readily agreed. Once we arrived, the educated youths went their separate ways. That's when I found out that Eric had come to buy books. The books at the village school are years old, too outdated. We should buy more, so we can teach the kids middle and high school knowledge in the future, Eric explained. I hadn't expected him to genuinely love reading and sincerely want to help the village children. Suddenly, it hit me, after the new year, it would already be 1977, the year that the National College Entrance Examination was reinstated. For every young person, whether educated youth, worker, or rural youth, this was the best chance to change their destiny. I handed him half the money I had. Eric, consider this a loan. Buy some high school books with it. Eric hesitated for a moment but was clearly moved. When it came to buying books, he couldn't resist. With his current funds, he could only afford middle school textbooks. Thank you, Diana, he said sincerely. I waved off his gratitude and pointed to the supply and marketing cooperative next door to the bookstore. I don't know much about books. I'll head next door to buy some candy for my niece and nephew. Come find me at the cooperative when you're done. Since it was still the New Year holiday, most people were visiting relatives, so the cooperative wasn't crowded. Before leaving, my parents, hearing that I was going to the county town with Eric, had generously given me 20 yuan, more than enough for a shopping spree. I bought milk candies and sponge cakes for my family, toys for my niece and nephew. Most importantly, I bought a military-style coat for Eric. After Eric finished buying his books, he waited for me outside the supply and marketing cooperative. When he saw me walk out carrying the military coat, he was completely stunned. Eric, this is my New Year's gift to you, I announced proudly. This is really for me? He looked at me in disbelief. I grinned. Of course! Everyone should wear new clothes for the new year. You're the teacher at our village school, and you don't even get a salary. If you keep wearing that patched-up old coat, it just wouldn't be right. Eric glanced down at his old coat, visibly embarrassed. The fabric was thin, and it had several mended patches. I handed him the military coat. Don't worry. My parents agreed to this. Come on, try it on for me. With that, I draped the coat over his shoulders. Eric was already slim, and the coat fit him perfectly. He looked sharp and handsome, much better than any of the other educated youths. You look amazing. I stared at him unabashedly. Eric blushed deeply and said earnestly, Thank you. I'll save up and... Before he could finish, a loud voice interrupted us. Diana, what are you doing here at the cooperative? Hurry up and get to the state-owned restaurant. Sam and the others are waiting for you, they're worried sick. It was Lily. When I arrived at the state-owned restaurant, I immediately understood the situation. Just as I had expected, the educated youths had come here for a feast. The table was covered with dishes, steamed carp, twice-cooked pork, kung pao chicken, meat dumplings, everything they could possibly order. They had all assumed, as in previous years, that Sam only needed to crook his finger, and I would eagerly step in to pay the bill for them. But this time, after eating their fill and waiting endlessly for me to show up, they began to panic. When the restaurant staff started urging them to settle the bill, they finally sent Lily to find me. By the time I arrived, the waitress was standing with her hands on her hips, scolding them like naughty children. You young men look educated. Are you all educated youths? How can you eat so much and sit here for so long without paying? Other customers are waiting for tables. What brigade are you from? Don't tell me you're planning to dine and dash. In the crowd, Sam hung his head in shame, his face flushed with embarrassment. Four Eyes, seeing Lily return with me, finally let out a sigh of relief. He pointed at me and said loudly, We're educated youths. Of course, we're cultured people, we wouldn't dine and dash. Look, the one paying the bill is here. The waitress turned to me with suspicion. Calmly, I pulled out the pockets of my coat and pants, showing that they were completely empty. Look, big sister, my pockets are as clean as my face. Where would I get the money to pay for them? These grown men eat and try to make a woman pay? How shameless! My words made the educated youths even more frantic. As educated youths assigned to the countryside, their records were meticulously kept. If they were reported for skipping a bill, it would be a permanent stain on their files. Lily started pacing in frustration, her eyes suddenly lighting up as she noticed the military coat on Eric. Diana, how can you say you don't have money? Where did Eric get the money for a military coat? Did you give it to him? Sam froze when he saw Eric's coat. At that moment, He finally realized that I had genuinely moved on and was now treating Eric well. After all, a military coat wasn't cheap, it cost real money. Sam stood up and walked over to me, his arrogance finally gone. He lowered his head and asked, "Diana, you'd rather spend money on Eric than help me? This time, consider it a loan." Ha! If only he had realized this earlier. Without hesitation, I refused. "Sam, it's not that I won't lend you money, I really don't have any. I spent it all. You're from our village's educated youth brigade. If word gets out about this, it'll embarrass everyone. Here's a suggestion, pool together what you have. And if it's not enough, work it off by washing dishes for a day." I deliberately called them out by name and mentioned our village, making sure everyone in the restaurant and the gathering crowd outside knew exactly who they were. "Diana, you're doing this on purpose," Lily fumed. Sam looked as though he wanted to crawl under the table to escape the humiliation. Good news travels slowly, but bad news spreads like wildfire. By tomorrow, their glorious feat of trying to dine and dash would likely be the talk of the entire commune. Worse still, if they didn't pay up, the restaurant would call the police. Left with no choice, the educated youths reluctantly pooled their hidden stashes of money. After much scrounging, they still came up 10 yuan short. With no other options, they pleaded with the restaurant, which finally agreed to let them work off the remaining amount by washing dishes. As Sam, Lily, and the others rolled up their sleeves to wash dishes, Eric and I were already on our way home. Chapter 9. On the way back to the village, I sang folk songs, brimming with joy. We swayed gently on the cart, and by the time the sun set, we had reached the village entrance. Eric insisted on walking me home. I waved him off. "Don't worry about me. I've got a loud voice. If anyone dares try anything, I'll just yell, and all the dogs in the village will start barking." But he remained firm. "Still, you're a girl. You should be careful." I teased him. "Eric, you care so much about me. Could it be that you like me?" Eric looked deeply into my eyes. This time, there was no shyness or hesitation. Suddenly, he said very seriously, "Yes, Diana, I like you. I want to be with you. Let's get married." For a moment, I was stunned. It was clear he had given serious thought to our relationship, not just about dating, but about marriage. He wanted to take responsibility for me. What a good man. Why hadn't I noticed him in my previous life? If I were the old me, I would have undoubtedly hugged him tightly and dashed into the cornfield with him. But now, I knew Eric was intelligent, talented, and capable. A man like him wasn't meant to be buried in the countryside. In my past life, he died heroically while saving a child from drowning. In this life, I wanted him to live well, and I wanted him to reunite with his parents. A reunion he never had in the past. The only way to change his fate was through the National College entrance examination. So, I decided to make things difficult for him. "Eric, I'm not an easy girl. If you like me, you'll have to write to your parents and get their approval. Then, with proper matchmaking and betrothal gifts, I might marry you." Eric's eyes lit up when he heard I was willing to date him. But when I mentioned his parents, his expression dimmed. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice full of sadness. "Before I was sent to the countryside, my parents went missing. I don't know where they are. Their health wasn't good. They might not even be alive anymore." Then he added, "But Diana, please believe me. I want to marry you, not because you're the village chief's daughter, or because your brothers work in the county, but simply because I love you." He continued, "I'll stay in the village. We can go to the commune to register our marriage. Even if my parents are gone, I'll work hard to earn money and give you all my work points, wages, food stamps, and cloth coupons." It wasn't romantic poetry, but his words were the most sincere and moving I'd ever heard. I couldn't help but reply, "No, you can't stay in the village forever. You have to go to the city and find your parents. They're not dead. They're alive and well, working in scientific research." Eric looked at me in shock. "How do you know that?" I almost slipped up. Quickly, I covered for myself. "I guessed. Didn't you say your parents were physics professors? Our satellites are made in Zhochuan, Gansu. They're probably working on secret projects." Eric gave a bitter smile. "You might be wrong. As far as I know, Many of those research projects have been halted. Foolish man, many projects are conducted in secrecy. Ordinary people wouldn't know. Our nation never gives up on scientific research. I urged him. No matter what, you must keep studying. Someday, you'll fulfill your parents' dreams. I encouraged him. The man I like must be ambitious and driven. Eric, you'll go to the city someday and become a learned man. Eric sighed. But Diana, the college entrance exams have been suspended for 10 years. I grew even more determined. No, maybe this year, they'll be reinstated. If we prepare wholeheartedly, we'll seize the opportunity and get into college. Eric chuckled. Diana, how do you know? Pretending to be angry, I replied. I just know. That's all. From now on, we'll study together. You'll teach me. I made him a deal. We'll give it a year. We'll study hard, whether the exams return or not. In a year, I'll marry you. Otherwise, I'll never marry you. Eric panicked. Diana, I'll study. I promise. Just don't say you won't marry me. I finally burst out laughing. Eric, you'd better keep your word. Eric, visibly moved, gripped my hand tightly. Dreamily, he asked, so, this year, when you come to school to study with me, what will our relationship be? I hugged him lightly. Silly. Of course. We're dating. Eric hugged me back tightly. Diana, thank you for choosing me. I promise I'll love and protect you always. At that moment, I realized that leaving one tree behind could lead to a whole forest ahead. Choosing the right person brought immense happiness and joy. Chapter 10. The next day, the commune called the brigade specifically to criticize Sam and Lily, along with the other educated youths, for their attempt to skip out on the restaurant bill. Yesterday, they had emptied their savings to pay off the debt and spent an entire day washing dishes at the state-owned restaurant. It wasn't until late at night that they slinked back to the village in shame. This incident was so humiliating that it became an indelible stain on their records. During the New Year holiday, none of the educated youths dared step out, afraid of being mocked by the villagers. Naturally, their resentment toward Eric and me grew stronger. To protect Eric, I applied to the village to have him move out of the educated youth dormitory and into the schoolhouse at the village entrance. I wanted Eric to focus on studying, and more importantly, to teach me diligently. The schoolhouse had been converted from an old cattle shed. It had electricity, and I added wooden furniture and new bedding. At night, with the kerosene lamp lit, the place had a cozy, studious atmosphere. However, after the new year, spring plowing began, and the farm work was heavy. Eric and I were often so exhausted after a day's labor that we could barely keep our eyes open while studying at night. Several times, Eric saw how tired I was and tried to persuade me to stop. Diana, you're not training to be a teacher. There's no need to push yourself so hard to study with me. From now on, my work points will be yours, and I'll take care of you. Eric was sincere, and I knew he wouldn't lie to me. But after the pain of my past life, I only wanted to rely on myself in this one. That was the only true security. So, I shook my head. Eric, I'm not tired. If I can't endure hardship now, the future will only be harder. That's why I need to study. Don't go easy on me. Eric gripped my hand tightly, his heart aching for me. All right. Once spring warms up, we'll add an extra hour of study every night. With that, we burned the midnight oil, and by summer, 4 months later, I had already completed the high school curriculum. Although I had agreed to date Eric, he became incredibly serious and studious during our lessons. At most, we would hold hands, but we never crossed any boundaries. Yet in the eyes of others, my nightly visits to Eric's schoolhouse seemed scandalous, especially to Four Eyes and Lily, who spread rumors that I was shamelessly sneaking into Eric's cabin every night to make private marriage arrangements. I didn't care. My reputation for chasing after educated youths had been established for years. What did a few more months matter? But my parents couldn't sit idly by. They demanded that Eric give them an explanation. That night, as Eric and I were studying English, the door suddenly burst open. My mother and sister-in-law stormed in, their faces like thunder. But when they saw Eric and me sitting on opposite ends of the table, each holding a high school English textbook, they froze in confusion. Diana, you're actually studying? My mother stammered. I looked to the heavens in exasperation. Mom, haven't I told you? I'm learning from Eric. At that moment, my father and two brothers entered. They saw the table piled with textbooks and worksheets and were completely stunned. My second brother, who had attended middle school, wasn't convinced. He picked up a book and quizzed me on a few problems. I answered every question correctly. Diana, since when did you suddenly have the brains to study? My second brother asked in disbelief. I snapped. Dad, Mom, why shouldn't I study? Do you want me to remain illiterate and get bullied without being able to fight back? My eldest brother, always the straightforward one, said, Diana, if anyone dares bully you, I'll beat them up. Tears welled up in my eyes. Big brother, you're a cook in the county town, and second brother, you're a factory security guard. It seems respectable, but neither of you has a proper labor contract. Just because you can't read, you're paid half of what others earn. You're being bullied yourselves. How can you protect me? Both my brothers fell silent. They had always hidden the harsh realities of their lives, but now they had nothing to say. Finally, my father sighed and spoke. Diana, it's good that you want to improve yourself. I won't stand in your way. He then turned to Eric. Eric, I only have one daughter. She's been coming to your place every night. There has to be an explanation. Eric responded earnestly. Village chief. Auntie, I've always liked Diana. She has agreed to date me, and I'm pursuing her with the intention of marriage. I promise I'll never let her down. My father nodded solemnly. But you're an educated youth from the city. If one day the policies change and you're allowed to return to the city, what will happen to Diana? Eric spoke firmly. I'll take Diana to the city with me. If I can't be with her, I'd rather stay here for the rest of my life. My father didn't respond, but I knew he had accepted Eric's words. Finally, he sighed and said, "Ah, daughters always end up leaving their families. The two of you should start planning your wedding." Eric and I exchanged smiles, knowing we had passed this hurdle. The next day, no one dared gossip about us anymore. My family was satisfied, openly declaring that Eric and I were in a relationship. They even praised him for being a cultured man who had taught me a lot. They went as far as to warn that anyone who spread rumors would face them sitting in their courtyard, making a scene for 3 days straight. Since neither of us was married, there was nothing unusual about being in a relationship. Over time, people lost interest. However, some of the other educated youths mocked me, saying I was trying to fake being educated just to please Eric. They don't believe knowledge will matter in the future. I muttered to myself, determined to prove them wrong. Chapter 11. 3 more months passed. By the end of autumn and the arrival of winter, I had already mastered much more knowledge. Then, in October, we finally received incredible news. Comrades, villagers, the college entrance exams have been reinstated. The official announcement came from the commune, and my father immediately shared it with the village. Everyone was both shocked and thrilled, especially the educated youths, who were ecstatic. However, the exams were scheduled for November, just 1 month away, which was far too little time to prepare. The educated youths were anxious, scrambling for review materials. Educated youths in the city had learned about the news earlier and had already hoarded all the books they could find. In our village, the educated youths naturally thought of me. After all, over the past year, only Eric and I had been diligently studying. Lily, though envious, still addressed me with a condescending tone. Diana, did you already know that the exams would be reinstated? How selfish of you not to tell us. I spread my hands and smiled. How could I possibly know such top-secret information? I study simply because I love learning and have a desire to improve. What was there to blame me for? Everyone thought about it and agreed there was no way a simple village girl like me could have known a state secret. Unconvinced, Lily turned to Eric. Eric, we're all educated youths here. Could you lend us your books? She knew Eric was introverted and soft-hearted, so she deliberately emphasized your books. But Eric glanced at me before replying to Lily. Sorry, but those books were bought with Diana's own money. If you want to borrow them, you'll have to ask her. In our home, Diana makes the decisions. The educated youths looked at me with envy. Hearing Eric refer to our home and giving me authority made my heart feel warm. Even my father, standing nearby, gave Eric an approving look. Only Lily appeared deeply disappointed, and Four Eyes looked utterly defeated. The two of them had often ridiculed me and Eric in the past. So naturally, they were afraid I wouldn't lend them the books. But now, with their education at stake, they had no choice but to swallow their pride and ask for my help. When Lily hesitated, Four Eyes finally stepped forward and asked, "Diana, could you lend me your books?" I had already memorized those books thoroughly, so of course, I could lend them out. However, I wasn't a saint and didn't like being taken advantage of. I wanted to settle past scores. I deliberately said, "Of course, I can lend you the books, but I'm the kind of person who responds to kindness, not hostility. Those of you who mocked Eric and me in the past must formally apologize. Then we'll call it even." Eric, being kind-hearted, didn't mind what others thought of him, but since I insisted on getting justice, he let me handle it. The educated youths fell silent. Some looked ashamed, while others appeared anxious. But ultimately, when forced to choose between knowledge and pride, they chose knowledge. After all, I wasn't asking for much, just a simple apology. One of the female educated youths took the lead. "Diana, I'm sorry, we were too narrow-minded before. Please forgive us." One by one, the others followed suit, apologizing. Even Four Eyes finally lowered his head. "Diana, please forgive us, even if I have to pay for the books." "I'll do it." I smiled sweetly. "All right, let's put the past behind us. If you want to borrow any books, just go to the school and take them. It won't cost you a single penny." It was so simple, free access to books. The educated youths were all sincerely grateful and began happily discussing which books to borrow. In that moment, it seemed like all barriers between us had disappeared. But two people stood apart, their faces dark with displeasure. One was Lily, the other was Sam. Especially Sam, his face was dark as iron. It was clear he wanted to borrow the books, but his pride kept him from asking. He looked at me with arrogance, as if expecting that with just a slight beckon, I would eagerly hand over the books to him. Unfortunately for him, I didn't even acknowledge his presence. Now, when I looked at Sam, it was like looking at garbage. One glance was too much. Seeing Sam staring at me, Eric, who was usually gentle and calm, grew uncharacteristically serious. Eric stepped forward and said, "Sam, you've misunderstood my partner multiple times. If you apologize to her, we can lend you the books too." "Your partner?" Sam's face went pale. Seeing the intimacy between Eric and me, Sam suddenly became enraged. "Humph. Back when I was in school, I was always a top student, even without books. I'll definitely pass the exam and leave this wretched place." With that, Sam stormed off in a huff. I couldn't help but laugh. I remembered in my previous life, Sam hadn't passed the college entrance exam either. He had returned to the city by buying a job. The college entrance exam was like walking a tightrope with thousands of others. It was no place for someone who didn't study seriously. Even my illiterate parents understood that much. But Sam didn't understand that. Chapter 12. The next day, after discussing with the village secretary, my father decided that all the educated youths and village youths preparing for the exam would get half a day off every day, dedicated solely to studying. As for me, my father didn't let me work for work points anymore. Instead, he kept pushing me toward Eric's place to study. Unlike the other exam takers, I was the only rural girl participating in the exams. The entire village pinned their hopes on me. Finally, November arrived, and it was the day of the exam. The whole village treated it as a significant event. Afraid we'd be late, my father borrowed a tractor from the commune to take us to the examination site. On the day of the exam, the weather was freezing, and it was snowing heavily. But despite the cold, all of us were excited and happy. In the countryside, the heavier the snow, the thicker the blanket it provides for the wheat, signifying a bountiful harvest in the coming year. When the exam ended, I was the last one to leave the examination hall. My father, my two brothers, and Eric were all waiting anxiously, immediately asking me how it went. I decided to tease them. What should I do? The questions were so difficult. My brothers quickly comforted me. Don't worry, the fact that you were able to take the exam alongside the educated youths is already an achievement. Eric chimed in. Diana, it's all right. If you don't pass this time, I'll stay in the village with you and keep trying until you make it. His words warmed my heart. I smiled and said, don't worry, the questions were tough, but I could answer them all. Our hard work will pay off. You're such a kid. My father finally breathed a sigh of relief. After the exam, I went back to working on the farm every day with the same diligence. Then, a month later, the county called with thrilling news. Eric and I had both been admitted to Tsinghua and Beida universities, the top schools in the country. The commune even sent a commendation letter and an honorary red flag. Our village had miraculously produced 2 college students in one go. The most remarkable part? One of them was a rural girl. Eric and I became role models for not just the village but the entire commune and even the county. As for the other educated youths in our village, none of them passed the exam. However, most of them were very close to the cutoff. This gave them hope. With the books they now had and diligent preparation, they were confident they could pass the next exam 6 months later. Everyone was filled with optimism and determination. A month later, Eric and I received our acceptance letters. The village canteen prepared a special celebration, cooking a few chickens to mark the occasion. The villagers and educated youths rarely had the chance to enjoy chicken soup, so everyone was in high spirits. Well, almost everyone. There were 2 notable absentees, Sam and Lily. Both had failed the exams and hadn't stepped outside for days. Sam, ever the proud one, was naturally unable to handle the humiliation of failure. As for Lily, she was hopelessly devoted to Sam, willingly staying by his side day after day. But to me, both of them had long ceased to matter. Soon, I would leave for the city, and they would remain here, stagnating in the village. After dinner, Eric walked me home. At my doorstep, we shared a tight embrace, exchanging dreams about the future. Eric, his voice filled with emotion, said, Diana, I don't want to wait anymore. Let's get married now. I smiled and shook my head. No, I want to finish university, find a job in the city, and get my urban residency before marrying you. I wanted everyone to know that I earned my city residency through my own efforts, not because I married a city-born educated youth. Eric sighed, looking a little resigned. Diana, you're so beautiful. What if, when you're at university, so many people chase after you that you stop caring about me? I laughed. How could that happen? You're my best partner in love. I'll always cherish you. My passionate confession left Eric both flushed and reassured. He suggested again, maybe we can hold a wedding in the village first and get the certificate in the city later. Standing on tiptoe, I kissed his forehead and smiled. All right, let me go inside and ask my parents right now. You're such a tease, Eric said, ruffling my hair before reluctantly heading back. I straightened my hair, ready to step inside. Suddenly, a male voice rang out behind me. Diana, can't get me, and now you're so desperate you can't live without a man? Chapter 13. It was Sam, stepping out from behind a tree. Disgust filled me as I asked, Sam, what are you doing here? And for the record, Eric and I are in a relationship. Whatever we do is none of your business. Sam froze for a moment before remembering his purpose for being there. In a stiff tone, he said, Diana, I know you've moved on to Eric because he got into university and I failed. But now, if you lend me 300 yuan, I'll still have a chance to return to the city. I frowned. 300 yuan? What do you mean? Sam explained. My parents were disappointed when they found out I failed, but they wrote to say they've arranged an accounting job for me at the meatpacking plant. They've scraped together almost everything, but they're still 300 yuan short to finalize the connections and get me back to the city. So, the buying a job scheme from my past life had reappeared. I looked at him with a blank expression. So, what you're saying is, you want to buy a job? Sam grew agitated. No. This is my last chance to return to the city. I sneered. Sam, you could just study harder and retake the exam next year. Instead, you're choosing to pay your way out. Jobs in the city are one-to-one. If you take someone else's spot, what happens to them? Sam grew angry. The world is complicated. It's all about connections and favors. If I consider others, will they consider me? Besides, next year's exam will only be harder with even more people taking it. I don't stand a chance. Lowering his head, he pleaded with me. Diana, I know your family has money. Your brother works in the county. You used to like me so much. If you help me return to the city, I'll be with you when you go to university. We can even get married. I laughed coldly. Sam, you're willing to sell yourself for 300 yuan? How cheap. Unfortunately for you, I'm not interested. I deliberately provoked him further. Sam, I won't give you the money. After the new year, I'll go to the city with Eric to study at Tsinghua and Beida. We'll have great jobs, get assigned a nice house, and live a happy life. And you? You'll be stuck here, forever envying us. Sam's face turned red with rage. That's enough. Diana, you're nothing but a money-hungry village girl. There's no way you got into university without Eric helping you cheat. You're only with him because of that. You're just a shallow, fickle woman. Shut up. You fool. I couldn't hold back and slapped Sam hard across the face. That slap carried years of pent-up anger. Sam stood there, stunned. Sam, all your failures stem from your arrogance and selfishness. If you dare slander me again, I'll report you to the authorities for defamation and fraud. Just then, I heard my parents' voices calling from the courtyard. Diana, are you out there? It's late. Hurry and come inside. Hearing them, Sam suppressed his anger and stormed off. As the new year approached, the village buzzed with activity. My parents, feeling bittersweet about me leaving for university, couldn't stop fussing over me. They worried I'd get into trouble in the city and insisted Eric keep a close eye on me. They, along with Eric, were adamant that we hold a wedding banquet before I left, essentially solidifying our marriage. I tried to reason with them. I'm not going anywhere, and Eric won't change his mind. There's no need to rush the banquet. But my parents disagreed. What kind of girl doesn't get married but keeps hanging around with a man? Privately, Eric agreed with them. They're right. Diana, to be honest, I'm scared too. You're so amazing that I'm afraid someone else might steal you away. I chuckled. You've gotten quite comfortable calling them mom and dad, haven't you? Eric smiled back. Not just that. I also want it to be legitimate, so I can finally do the things only a husband and wife can do. Hey, my face turned red in an instant. While we were preparing for our wedding, something strange happened in the village. 2 educated youths went missing. One was Lily, and the other was Sam. This was no small matter because incidents of educated youths secretly running back to the city happened every year. Our village is surrounded by mountains, so it's usually easy to spot anyone leaving the area. The commune leaders were furious and asked the staff at the county bus station to keep an eye out for suspicious situations. But I felt there were too many unanswered questions about this case. Sam was eager to return to the city because his family had arranged a job for him. However, he still needed 300 yuan to secure the position. Where could Sam have gotten that money? I asked a few educated youths, and they all said Sam had indeed tried to borrow money from them, but their money was spent on books, and no one had lent him any. As for Lily, there was no news that her family had arranged a job for her, so she had no reason to return to the city on her own. Soon, the bus station reported back, saying there was no sign of Lily. I boldly speculated that perhaps Lily hadn't returned to the city, or even left the mountains at all. Chapter 14. I immediately contacted my father and informed the commune, mobilizing the surrounding villages and brigades to join the search. Sure enough, a few days later, my sister-in-law returned from visiting her family with a suspicious piece of information. She said that in a village dozens of miles away, deep in the mountains, a bachelor had suddenly acquired a wife. The wife was young and beautiful, and her age matched Lily's. Without hesitation, I asked my father to contact the police to search that village. Sure enough, as soon as we entered the mountains, we found Lily. By then, Lily was barely recognizable, having been beaten terribly. Her clothes were disheveled, and her face was bruised and swollen. When she saw us, it was as if she had seen her family. She ran toward us, overwhelmed with emotion. "I'm Lily! Save me! It's Sam's doing!" Crying, Lily recounted everything. It turned out that a few nights earlier, Sam had asked Lily to meet him, claiming there was a chance to return to the city. He told her that his family had 2 spots for returning to the city, and if they secretly ran away, they could secure jobs in a factory. Lily, feeling depressed after failing her university entrance exams and harboring feelings for Sam, believed him without reservation. But Lily never expected Sam to betray her. As soon as they left our village, Sam revealed his true nature. He knocked Lily unconscious, carried her to the neighboring village, and sold her to the bachelor for 300 yuan as a wife. When Lily regained consciousness and realized she had been deceived, she resisted desperately, but all she received in return were the bachelor's threats, beatings, and curses. Her cries for help went unanswered. No one came to her aid. Fortunately, we found her just in time and rescued her. The bachelor was sentenced to prison and would spend the rest of his life behind bars. After returning to the educated youth station, Lily was devastated. She completely shut herself off. Feeling hopeless and ashamed, she cried every day and barely ate. Seeing her like this, the other educated youths were deeply troubled. Unable to bear it any longer, I went to comfort her but was nearly thrown out. When Lily saw me, she cried even harder. Diana, my body, my reputation, they've all been destroyed. Go ahead and laugh at me, mock me. I'm a complete loser, and you're the ultimate winner. I calmly responded. Lily, at least you're still alive. Will the mockery and ridicule from others hurt you more than the beatings and abuse from that old man? Lily was stunned into silence. Though harsh words can feel suffocating, gossip ultimately doesn't leave a physical mark. There's nothing more painful than being betrayed by someone you love and abused by an old man. I continued. The power of gossip comes from how much you care about it. You relied too much on Sam, so you couldn't accept being hurt by him. But in reality, he's no different from that old man or a stray dog on the side of the road. If a dog bites you, the dog will be punished. But what about you? Will you continue to live in painful memories, punishing your fragile self for someone else's mistakes? Lily was stunned. You're saying Sam is a dog? But in the next second, she was still unwilling to let it go. Diana, what gives you the right to stand on a pedestal and mock my weakness? I made the mistake of trusting the wrong man. You just got lucky by picking Eric. I shook my head. I never picked a man. My only luck is having a broader perspective than you. If there were no Eric, would I have stopped studying? Would I have given up on taking the university entrance exam? No, because the only one who can change my fate is me, not a man. So, Lily, if you want others to respect you, stand up and earn it. Prove yourself by living better than anyone else. After saying this, I left the youth station. I didn't know if Lily cried again, but the next day, Lily walked out of the station with confidence and joined the labor work on the farm. In her free time, she borrowed many books from the other educated youths. She started studying and decided to take the university entrance exam again. It was a great start. A few days later, Eric and I got married. On the day of the banquet, all the educated youths and villagers came to give their blessings. Lily also attended. She was confident and poised, bringing a 20 yuan gift, saying it was from her parents. Lily's parents had already learned about what happened to her. They told her to pick herself up, study hard, and take the university entrance exam again. I politely declined, saying, Lily, use this money to buy some books for yourself. But Lily insisted, shoving it into my hands. Diana, when you get to the city, use this money to buy some proper clothes. Don't dress like a country bumpkin and embarrass our village. And wait for me, next year. I'm definitely getting into Tsinghua or Peking University. I smiled and accepted. All right, junior sister. I'll be waiting for you. We bowed to heaven and earth, then to our parents. After the long ceremony, Eric and I finally entered our bridal chamber. Late at night, I counted the gift money, even though most were just 3 or 5 yuan. I was very happy. Eric, when we get to the university, we'll buy new bedding, new stationery, pay tuition, and get new books. Eric held my hand. Little miser, I'll buy you whatever you want. But for now, this spring night is worth 1,000 gold coins. Eric gently kissed me. Chapter 15. A few days after Eric and I got married, the police unexpectedly came to our door. They arrived in a police car, drawing the curiosity of the villagers, who quickly gathered around to see what was happening. After speaking with them, I learned that they were here because of Sam. It turned out that after deceiving and trafficking Lily for 300 yuan, Sam had taken an illegal taxi to return to the city. The taxi was slow, and by the time Sam reached the city a few days later, his crime had already been exposed, and he had become a fugitive wanted nationwide. When Sam's parents learned of his crime, they couldn't hold their heads up at the factory anymore. When Sam returned home, his parents, in an effort to protect themselves, refused to acknowledge him and reported him to the police, leading to his arrest. Sam had reaped what he had sown, tasting the bitterness of being betrayed by his own family. Unfortunately, during his transfer to the prison, Sam proved to be cunning and managed to escape. One of the officers explained, concern evident on his face. Based on our investigation, Sam has nowhere else to go and is highly likely to have returned to your village. What? You're saying Sam is back? I was shocked. The officer nodded. Some witnesses reported seeing him hiding in the surrounding mountains. He's very likely to seek revenge against the villagers, so you must be cautious. With that, the police headed into the mountains to search. The villagers, alarmed by the news, became uneasy. The men of the village quickly rallied, grabbing hoes and shovels to assist the police in the search. Even my father, my brother, and Eric joined them to comb through the mountains. But just as everyone left, a sharp scream came from our kitchen, followed by the sound of a child crying. "Oh no! It's my nephew!" I rushed toward the kitchen in panic. Sure enough, Sam was there, holding a knife in one hand and my young nephew in the other, glaring at me with a vicious expression. My nephew was wailing in terror. "Baby!" My mother and sister-in-law also saw the scene and screamed in fear. Sam, furious, shouted, "Diana, don't blame me. I didn't get into university, and now I'm a wanted man. It's all your fault. I have nowhere to go now. You must make the police withdraw the warrant, or I'll kill this child and go down with him." I was terrified. The police and all the village men were still in the mountains, leaving no one to notice what was happening here. I quickly tried to calm him down. "Sam, I promise you, the child is innocent. Please put him down." Seeing me soften, Sam's expression unexpectedly softened as well. He looked at me, his eyes showing an unprecedented tenderness. "Diana, I can release your nephew, but promise me you won't marry Eric. Marry me instead, okay?" I stared at him, wide-eyed. "Sam, do you even realize what you're saying?" Sam continued as if he hadn't heard me. "Diana, these past few days, while I've been hiding in the mountains, I had a long dream. I dreamed that it was me who dated you and married you. I dreamed that you supported me, bought me a military coat, and that it was me who successfully returned to the city with you." I laughed. I knew that what he dreamed of was the life we had shared in a previous lifetime. But I asked him, "And then, Sam, after you returned to the city in your dream, what happened next? Did you take me back to the city? Did we grow old together?" Sam fell silent. He hadn't dreamed of any of that. Sam had only dreamed that after returning to the city, he joined a factory, fell for someone else, and abandoned me for the factory director's daughter. He also dreamed that when I went to the city to confront him, he pushed me into a river, causing the ruin of my family and my life. Sam began to cry. "Diana, I was wrong before. I didn't cherish you. Please, give me another chance." He became agitated again. "Diana, I won't betray or hurt you like I did in the dream. I'll change. I'll treat you well. Next year, let's take the university entrance exams together, okay?" But his grip tightened on my nephew, who whimpered in pain. My heart clenched, and I shouted, "Let the boy go first. He's innocent. I'll take his place as your hostage." As soon as I said this, my mother and sister-in-law grew frantic. "Diana, you and the baby can't be hurt." I reassured them. "Mother, sister-in-law, don't worry, I'll be fine." Raising both hands, I signaled to Sam that I wasn't armed. Then I spoke coldly. Sam, didn't you dream about marrying me? So why now, when you're so close, do you not even dare to approach me? Seeing that I was unarmed, Sam accepted my proposal. He released my nephew, slowly putting him down, and extended his hand toward me. My nephew cried out and ran to me, sobbing, "Auntie, I'm scared." I comforted him and handed him over to my sister-in-law, telling her to cover his eyes. Then I reached out my hand and, smiling, walked toward Sam. Sam, too, smiled with a crazed expression, his excitement palpable as he extended his hand to meet mine. "Diana, I love." A gunshot rang out. Sam's words were cut off as blood gushed from his mouth, and he collapsed to the ground. Chapter 16. The person who fired the shot was the police officer. In fact, when Sam grabbed my nephew, my niece had been hiding behind a pile of firewood nearby. I had secretly signaled to her to quietly run up the mountain and alert the police and Eric. Fortunately, the police arrived in time, and everything was resolved. "Diana, are you okay?" Eric held me tightly, his eyes filled with panic. My father, carrying my niece on his back, ran over nervously. "Don't worry. I'm fine." I reassured Eric and gently ruffled my niece's hair. Not far away, the police covered Sam's body with a white sheet. Lily ran in from outside. First, she cried, and then, overcome with rage, began kicking and hitting Sam's lifeless body. Sam had fallen into an eternal slumber. The wicked were eliminated, and though the villagers discussed it for a few days, they gradually forgot about it. When spring arrived after the new year, Eric and I were filled with excitement. We bid a reluctant goodbye to our families and boarded the northbound train. In the train car, many young people were heading to their universities. Their faces were lit with happiness and brimming with hope for the future. To our surprise, when we arrived at the station, we saw two men holding signs with our names, Diana and Eric. "Eric, do you know these comrades?" The two men were dressed in military uniforms, looking nothing like teachers sent to welcome incoming students. Eric shook his head, equally puzzled. "Comrades, who are you?" The two men immediately saluted us. One of them said, "Thank goodness, Diana and Eric, we've finally found you." The other added, "We are guards from the Jochuan research base. The professor and his wife sent us to escort you to your university. Don't worry, your accommodation, tuition, and living expenses have all been arranged, and the professor has already spoken to the school on your behalf." Professor and wife? Could it be? I looked at Eric with astonishment and delight. Eric was just as excited as I was. With reddened eyes, Eric asked, "It's my parents. They're alive." "Comrades, where are they now?" One of the men replied, "The work of scientists is classified, so we can't disclose too much, but rest assured." The professors were thrilled to hear that Eric not only got into university but also married a university student. The other added, "Yes, in a little while, once their research project is complete and our new rocket soars into the sky, they'll return to the capital and reunite with you." No wonder in my previous life, Eric's parents only appeared years after his death to search for him in our village. It turns out they had dedicated their entire lives to the service of the country, offering everything for science. Moved, I said, "Comrades, please let Uncle and Auntie know that I will take good care of Eric." But Eric gripped my hand tightly and said, "Diana, the one who should take care of you the most is me." The two men smiled with emotion, clearly happy for Eric's parents. Afterward, we climbed into the army green jeep. To help me better understand the capital, they took a detour and showed us the long street and the most sacred square. Each scene filled my eyes with tears. At that moment, I realized that through my own efforts, I had finally arrived in the capital with pride and dignity. I had changed my destiny, and I had also changed Eric's. The memories of my past life, the unbearable and tragic moments, melted like ice in the warmth of spring, flowing through our hearts as a gentle stream. Between Eric and me, there was now only love and warmth, and a shared hope for the future.